Hare Krishna. Today I have a question from Madhurananda Das in UK. He says, why does Lord Shiva chant on rudraksa beads as opposed to tulasi beads? Is there any difference between the two? Does the marking on his forehead relate to a Vaishnav tilak in any way, or does it have another significance? And then there's another question from Rajakumar Das. Oké, kis csend, hogyha csendesebben lehet, akkor így könnyebb dolgok. The rudraksha beads, tilak, are common to the Shaivite tradition, religious tradition. Like many religious traditions, they have different symbols, markings, habits, scriptures, spiritual paraphernalia, in this case japa, that they chant on, different psalms, hymns, mantras. The purpose is always the same. The purpose is to ultimately bring people to a higher state of God consciousness that ultimately comes to Krishna consciousness. At least, of course, that's our understanding. And the same is there for Shaivites. They have different beads, they have different tilak. For instance, their sannyasis don't have a danda, tridandi like we do, but rather they walk with a, what's it called, a trident. And then, of course, Mayavadis, for instance, have an ekadanda. All different forms of external paraphernalia. They may chant Om Shivaya Namaha, Shaivites, instead of chanting Hare Krishna, and they place more emphasis on, for instance, Shiva Purana than they will place on Bhagavad Purana. But by gradually worshipping Lord Shiva, a real worshipper of Lord Shiva will come to the conclusion that yes, Vaishnavanam Yatha Shambhu, he's a great Vaishnava, and Lord Shiva is also worshipping Govinda Mahari Purusham. He's also worshipping Govinda. He's also worshipping Lord Shankarshan. So then I should also follow his example, because that is actually Lord Shiva's teachings. But if people are not at that stage, then they will chant Bhaja Govinda, and they will chant on their own type of beads. Why? Because according to the modes of material nature they're in, they're attracted to that type of thing. Should devotees chant on rudraksha beads? No, that's not what our acharyas have given us. They've given us tulasi beads, which is connected to Krishna's spiritual tradition, not Lord Shiva's spiritual tradition. Tulsi Devi is very dear to Krishna. So Vaishnavas chant on tulsi beads because our practices embody our religious tradition. Why should we adopt the religious tradition of someone else, even if it's authorized, even if it's bona fide? No, we stick with our own religious tradition, and by sticking with our own religious tradition, then in that way we're actually faithful to the teachings of our own spiritual guides. And same thing with the tilak markings. We have our own tilak. We see, for instance, Ramanuj, Madhava, Sampradaya. They have different tilak. Worshippers of Durga Devi have theirs. Lord Shiva's followers have theirs. Ultimately, one's meant to have Gaudiya Vaishnav tilak, because that represents the topmost religious siddhanta or conclusion. But in the meantime, we should not make fun or imitate those who do other things, thinking that that's also bona fide. Rather, this concept of being sve sve vikarayi nishtam, one should adopt the tradition that, and be faithful to the tradition that one's inherited from one's own acharyas. So for us, all we need to do is what did Srila Prabhupada do? And what Srila Prabhupada did, we should also do and we should follow. Whether it's with the externals as being mentioned here of tilak and so on, or whether it's with the real internal practices, the sadhana and the other things. They're all important. Nothing is superficial. And idea that comes to mind is sometimes devotees use radhika and tilak, and the question is it wrong? It's not wrong. A certain branch of Gaudiya Vaishnavas use radhika and tilak, but it's not the tradition of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's followers. It's not the tradition that Srila Prabhupada gave us. So, therefore, we should be faithful to that, because whereas a change of tilak may not be very significant in one's spiritual life, it may not mean that one has become unfaithful in one's practices, but it does lead to a certain practice, a certain tradition, in which people may start off just with a tilak, and from tilak they may go to mantras and siddha pranali and being bhajananandis instead of kostanandis and so on. So we want to avoid those type of things. And another question that is asked by Braja Kumar Das, he says, some devotees say that tulsi leaves can only be offered to installed deities. Please, could you clarify if grihastas can put tulsi on their bhoga offerings to deities or pictures? Yes, I would suggest that they can. In India, many people have tulsi, all Vaishnavas, and often non-Vaishnavas will also have tulsi devi in their yard and in their compound. There's no injunction that I know that only tulsi leaves can only be offered to installed deities. Why not uninstalled deities such as Gonditai? Why not pictures? Ultimately, only bhakti priyachati. It's the bhakti that's important. And Vrinda Devi is the emblem of real devotion. When Krishna says patram pushpam phalam jyoyam, and he talks about patra, he talks about a leaf. He's talking about offering tulsi leaf. So if we are worshipping Krishna in the form of a picture, and our devotion is to Krishna in the form of that picture, Krishna is certainly there. On the other hand, we may be worshipping Krishna in his deity form, and we do it with all types of ritual, but it's lacking bhakti. And even if we're offering Tulsi Devi, that offering may not be taken with the same type of willingness by the Lord as to a devotee who's offering to a picture. So, no harm. We should do so, but obviously always to a picture of Krishna, because in the ultimate sense, there is no difference between Krishna and his picture, as there's no difference between Krishna and his deity form. Both of them are just different types of forms of the Lord that have different functional purposes, but I don't know that the function of offering tulsi is restricted to pictures, unless someone can provide some alternate or opposing argument. I would say, yes, fine, go ahead and do that. And just as a parting thought, earlier on, I had a conversation with Govinda Maharaj, and his meditation for the day was gratefulness. And he was quoting different nice quotes from Shastras, some from other sources.